Hey guys, welcome to this painting tutorial on painting an orc boy. Now, unlike some of my other tutorials, the aim with this is going to be to paint an orc that's very simple, very easy to reproduce, and quick to paint, but while still trying to keep sort of a nice look so that when he's put down on the table as part of a whole horde of orcs, he'll still look good and fit in, but without having to spend hours and hours painting each individual model, because quite frankly you need a lot of orcs to make an army, and if you've got to paint and shade and highlight and fine detail everything, it's going to take forever. So this is just going to be a quick and simple but still effective orc. As you can see, the guy on the right is one I've done already, that's what I'm aiming for, and the orc on the left has just been base coated in Chaos Black. So first thing I always do with my orcs is the skin, and this is one of the most important areas for an orc because they're green skins, it's what sets them apart from other races, and I'm going to start by base coating all the skin in Games Workshop Caliban green base paint, which is pretty much the darkest green they do, and then I'm going to work up some dry brushes to highlight this. But start with just cover all the skin in Caliban green. At this stage you don't have to be too neat because you're going to go back over everything in a bit anyway, so you just want a nice solid base coat of that. I'll be back in a minute when I've done that. Okay, so now our orc's got this nice dark green base coat on, it's time to start building up the highlight for this. Now, whereas traditionally with skin you'd probably use a like a standard layering technique where you'd carefully paint the colour onto the raised areas and leave the recesses dark. With this we're going to do something a little bit quicker, a little bit more rough and ready, that works quite nicely for these orcs, and that's an overbrush. So it's kind of halfway between a dry brush and a traditional layering. You don't remove quite so much paint from the brush as you would for a dry brush, and you just sort of, but you brush it back and forward over the area like a dry brush, so it'll highlight the raised surfaces and leaving the recesses still in the dark colour. First colour we're going to do for this is Games Workshop's Warpstone Glow. Nice sort of medium green tone, works very nice. Used it extensively throughout my orc collection. So yeah, we're going to dry brush that, overbrush probably 2 layers of that onto this guy, 1 layer and then a slightly lighter layer over that to give him some shade, some highlighting, and then I'll come back and do the next stage. Okay, as you can see, 2 layers of overbrushing with Warpstone Glow has already started to give this model a bit more depth and highlight to it, but now we're going to go to a brighter highlight, and that's going to be using Games Workshop Warble Screen, and this is obviously a lighter shade, quite commonly associated with orcs. And for this you're not so much overbrushing as doing a heavy dry brush, so you want still to leave quite a lot of this green that's already on there showing through, but the Warble Screen will give it a bit of a highlight, lighten it up, and then after that we're only going to do 1 more layer of highlighting on the skin. Right, so that's added some more depth in the highlights to the skin, and we're going to do 1 final dry brush now, and this is going to be using one of the Citadel dry paints. This is Underhive Ash, which is almost a bone colour but with a slight greeny tinge to it, and that's going to be a very light dry brush, particularly focusing on the most raised areas around the face and ears, fingers and the tops of the muscles, such as sort of round here, right on the sort of the edges, to give them some definition. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that and then come back, and that will be the skin on this orc done. So now with the dry brushing complete on the skin, you can see this orc is looking very sort of rough and orky, and also you can see from all the paint splatters on all the other parts of the model that this is probably the messiest stage of the process, which is why we've done it first, because it will go on all the bits you don't want it to go as well as the bits you do. That's absolutely fine because all those bits are now going to get painted over. So going to start blocking out the main colours on the rest of the model, I'm going to use 4 colours for this. I'm going to use corn red. That's going to be primarily for the armour and the sort of the jacket that he's wearing. Also going to put a bit of that on the tongue and also in the eye sockets to do those details. Then we're going to use XV88 for the trousers, Dryad Bark for the boots, and Lead Belcher for the chopper and the gun, but also any other metal bits you might find on the model. So at this stage, being neat matters a little bit more now, because we're going to be defining which areas are going to be what colour, and so I'm going to block those out and come back and show you what I've done. Okay, so now we've blocked out the main colours on this orc, we're going to give him a ink wash to add some depth and some shading to these, and this is a really quick and effective way of shading your models, particularly when they've got a lot of texture like the fabrics or the leathers that this orc's wearing. So for the red and the lighter brown, we're going to use Agrax Earthshade, and then we're going to use Nuln Oil for the metal and the darker brown. So obviously you're going to want to apply one colour, let that dry fully before applying the other. These being washes will take a while to dry, but actually it's very quick to apply, and obviously you're going to want to be doing these in a batch to speed up the process. So although the drying time's a long time, it's actually still a really quick process. So I'll be back in a minute once I've done that. Okay, so now that we've got that wash complete and it's all dry, you can see that's added a lot of depth and realism to a lot of the leather parts of the model and helped to darken down the metallic parts as well. Next thing we're going to do is really easy, just a very light dry brush of Necron compound onto the metal components. So you really just need the tiniest amount of paint on your brush for this, because it's just a really quick dry brush. So I'm going to do that next and come back and show you the next part. Right, so that dry brush has helped the metallic parts to stand out, and now I want to work on the red parts of this model. You see, red is a really good contrasting colour to green, so having the red stand out well will make the green stand out well, and vice versa. So on the torso and the arm straps of this model, just going to highlight some of the raised areas. But with this, what I'm not going to do is highlight like the bits that are the undershirt, but more just go for the bits that are armour plates and strapping rather than the whole thing. It's going to almost make it out like there's two materials, like a darker red undershirt and then a slightly lighter red on the strapping and the armour plates. So for this, we're going to start off by layering it all with corn red. And then after that we're going to go for a highlight on the edges of Evil Sunz Scarlet. So I'm going to do the corn red, show you that bit, and then come back to do the Evil Sunz Scarlet. So now that the parts that we want to be a little bit lighter red are picked out with the corn red, I'm going to highlight them with the Evil Sunz Scarlet now. So this is just going to be an edge highlight along all the edges of the leather strapping, the armour plate, the wristbands, and also want to do a little bit on the face as well, just the tip of the tongue and the centre of the eyes, just to give them a bit more sparkle as well. So we're going to do that and then come back and show you the finishing touches. Okay, so with the red highlighted, our orc's almost done, just a couple more bits we want to do, and the first thing we're going to do to finish him off is to paint the teeth and the claws. So we're going to start by painting these with a layer of XV88, the sort of the light brown base paint, and then going to highlight those up, but yeah, I'll get those base painted first. Next I'm going to highlight the teeth and claws, and for this I'm going to use Shabty Bone. So this is going to be sort of a layer over most of the teeth and claw area, just leaving a little bit at the base of each one and in between the teeth just to give them a bit more depth. So sort of leaving a bit of the brown showing but it mostly being bone. So I'm going to paint that next. As you can see, painting the teeth in that really simple two-step process has added a lot to the model. It just makes that part stand out a little bit and really finishes them off nicely. Now there's just two things I want to do left to paint on this model, and that's first going to be all the little rivets on the armour and the belt buckles. Just going to paint those in Ironbreaker, sort of a medium tone iron colour, and then dot the eyes, just a tiny little dot right in the centre with Abaddon Black. So going to do those bits and I'll be back to show you the finished thing. And there we go, our orc is now finished. As you can see, it's been fairly simple techniques all the way. There's nothing in here that's difficult or time consuming to do. Edge highlighting takes a little bit of practice to get right, but on the whole is very straightforward to do. And the process is quick enough that you can get a whole army of these guys done in a relatively short amount of time, but still got enough detail on it to look good on your gaming table. Obviously, in each individual miniature isn't going to be the most highly detailed Golden Demon standard model, but it's going to, you know, give you an army that looks nice and an army that's actually finished, which is always a good thing. It's never nice to play with unpainted plastic. You'll see I've left the base blank on this. Basically you just want to base him in however is going to suit your orc army. You know, everyone's got their own preferences on basing, and I'm not going to go through how I base my orcs in this video, but hope you like, and if you do, let me know and I'll try and make more of these. Thanks a lot, bye.